Hello folks. Today we have the cork elm that we a few years back did the V-cut in to create a broom style. This tree I've let grow freely since last you saw it, and it's done quite well. We're starting to have a few cool days here, however it's a little late in the season and some of these trees are starting to bud out. This is one of them. What we're going to do today is just take it back. We're going to take it back pretty drastic. We're going to take it back to a few of the different leaders on this tree, and I'm going to let it grow freely again. What that's going to do is that's going to start creating taper. As you can see, this tree loves to ramify, and if I was to chop it back at all these intervals here, it would ramify quite a lot. However, that's not what we're going for right now. I want to go for a tree that's going to have a lot of taper, because there's not a lot of taper in the lower portion of this tree, so I want to create some taper in these upper branches. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it back, each one of these branches back to a leader. We're going to let that leader grow freely this season, just like we did last season. That's going to aid in healing the wound here, which the wound is doing quite well actually. It's healed over fairly quick in these areas, but not quick enough. So we're going to continue working on that this season, and by doing so, by cutting these back and letting a new leader develop and then let that new leader take over, that's going to rush quite a bit of energy up into these upper areas, which is going to help callus and swell the wound area that we created when we made our initial V-cut. So let's go ahead and get to that. We'll come back here in a few moments after that's been done, have a few quick commentaries afterward, and we'll continue from there. Okay, here's this tree after we've made the initial cuts. I like to utilize outward growing branches if possible, but where I wanted to cut this tree there were none. So what I've done is I've utilized some inward growing branches here just to maintain energy flow to these areas to assure that we're not going to have dieback of any of these main branches. It's typically not an issue with this type of material with this Chinese elm, but just in case, you know, you always want to go slow if possible. Slow and steady always wins the race with these bonsai. What will happen is in spring, when the energy starts really rushing up here towards these areas, we're going to get a lot of back budding. There's a whole bunch of dormant buds along the lengths that we have left here of these branches. So once those buds break, I may select another outward growing branch as the top and all, and I'll make another cut at that point in time, and then we'll go ahead and continue with the progression. Another thing I want to stress is this, even though it's a broom style tree, you still want to have a primary and secondary branches. I see this branch over here as the primary branch. Obviously you have a back branch here, and this is going to be the secondary branch. Where I've cut these, they're almost at the same plane, so that's what I'm kind of in the process of doing, is hoping we have some back budding on an outward branch here, and I might utilize this branch as the outward growing branch for this side. However, it didn't look very healthy, so I've left this branch in place just as a backup plan. Back branch as well. I have a small one here, I have another one coming up here, but that one's going to be too short, but I want to maintain the, energy flow into these branches. This is where we are at this point in time. I'm going to let this grow freely. We'll shoot another video of this midsummer so you can see its development from now till then. You'll be able to see the back budding if it takes place and where I've selected my additional branches, and we will go from there. I'm going to went ahead and cleaned the moss. There's quite a bit of moss growing on the base of the tree in the nabari, so I'm going to go ahead and brush some of that off as well. What I've learned is if you leave the moss grow on these corky barked species, and you might be able to see it a little bit here, what it does is it actually decomposes this corky bark. You want to keep that because that's a great feature, so what I do is I brush that off with a brass brush and just try to keep it under control as much as possible. We'll do a quick 360 here, and once again, this is the cork bark that we've implemented the broom style on, and this is another phase in the development. It will be kind of boring in the developmental stages of this tree until we really start getting some good ramification and some good taper on this tree. Then it'll get a little bit more intense as far as the developing and the techniques that you use to develop it. But for now, this is what we have. Thanks for watching.